This video comes from my Archaeology Corroborates the Bible series. Entries in this series are based on the book Unearthing the Bible, written by Titus Kennedy. Kennedy looks at 101 archaeological discoveries that bring the Bible to life. Dr. Titus Kennedy is a professional field archaeologist, an adjunct professor at Biola University, a research fellow at Discovery Institute, and has been a consultant, writer, and guide for history and archaeology documentaries and curricula. Kennedy currently directs archaeological projects in Bible lands, and he has researched and photographed artifacts from around the world. Artifacts left behind from the vanished ancient world of the Bible have been found and recovered through archaeology. What is an artifact? In simple terms, an artifact is an ancient object made or modified by humans, and many have been found, especially in recent years, at archaeological sites around the world. Artifacts include statues, altars, jewelry, weapons, tools, inscriptions, paintings, coins, scarabs, tablets, papyri, stelae, reliefs, and pottery, showcasing the artistic and technological prowess of the ancients. But more importantly, artifacts tell stories of the past. They serve as both visual and informational aids that provide insight into that ancient context and toward an accurate understanding and interpretation. The Bible is a collection of books written millennia ago in places and cultures far removed from modern readers, but artifacts can give us essential knowledge of the ancient world and help us avoid the problem of unconsciously or inadvertently viewing a passage or book in the context of a modern society and time. Because the Bible contains stories from the ancient world, written in a style different than the method of modern historians and paired with theology, many have assumed that the narratives in the Bible are myth, legend, and propaganda instead of accurate history. In fact, the majority of scholars, most media and educational sources, and many in the general public regard the Bible as a fairy tale and frequently portray it as unimportant or irrelevant beyond literary and religious studies. For years, the Bible has been routinely attacked and disregarded on the basis of history or archaeology. And yet, when people look into what archaeologists have unearthed, a different story comes to light, showing that instead of fiction and fairy tales, archaeology indicates that the Bible preserves an accurate recounting of the history addressed in its pages. Specifically, hundreds of artifacts from the distant past have demonstrated the events, people, and places in the Bible to be historical. Today we start a new series showing how archaeology corroborates the Bible. To do so, we'll be going through the book Unearthing the Bible, 101 Archaeological Discoveries that Bring the Bible to Life, by Titus Kennedy. The first entry in the book refers to alternate creation tablets, Girsu and Ebla. The Sumerians, who composed the oldest written records of any civilization yet discovered, wrote about the heavens and the earth through a story of creation. A Sumerian cuneiform clay tablet discovered at Girsu in southern Mesopotamia and composed during the Early Dynastic period in the 3rd millennium BC, perhaps as early as 2900 BC, recounts a time at the beginning of creation in which the daylight and moonlight did not shine because the sun and moon did not yet exist. The lesser gods had not yet been created, the fields and vegetation were still merely dust, and the earth was filled with water as part of the creation process. The text also mentions heaven, earth, and water, which were often personified as the original divine trio in ancient Mesopotamian creation stories, although Lord Heaven is specifically referred to in the narrative perhaps as the creator. This tablet, which might be the oldest preserved creation story, has obvious parallels to the Genesis account, as it refers to a beginning, then the creation of the sun, moon, water on the earth, and vegetation. The lesser gods in ancient Near Eastern literature appear to be angelic beings, which according to the Bible seem to have been created before the earth, and the concept of the Trinity even appears to be implied in the Genesis creation narrative. Another one of the most ancient creation accounts was discovered in a cache of about 20,000 clay tablets during excavations at Ebla, Syria, Tel Marduk in northern Mesopotamia. More than 8,000 of these tablets at Ebla were from a city archive dated to about 2400 to 2000 BC, prior to the destruction of the city. Texts were written in the script of both Sumerian and Akkadian, but a local Ebla dialect was discovered in the documents. Out of these tablets, 3 that contain a short creation poem have been recovered and translated. The texts are in the Ebla language and contain one of the oldest known creation accounts. The poem states, quote, "Lord of heaven and earth, you had not made the earth exist, you created. You had not established the sun, you created. You had not made the morning light exist," end quote. It also notes that this Lord is divine, saves, and has words that produce effects. The recovered fragments of the poem are concerned primarily with the initial creation of earth, light, and the sun, while sections such as the creation of plants, animals, and humans were either not addressed or may have been lost in sections of the poem. The Girsu creation tablet and the Eblaite creation hymn, which share more similarities to the beginning of Genesis than any other known ancient creation text, are also the oldest copies of creation accounts yet discovered. While these Mesopotamian creation texts are not exactly the same as Genesis or other related creation passages in the Bible, especially regarding clear monotheism, order, and comprehensiveness, they do demonstrate remembrance and knowledge of a very similar creation idea throughout the ancient Near East, very early in the history of civilization. And then it closes this entry with the biblical citation of Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, which says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light." So we see that a creation narrative is not something that is foreign to literary history. I see the evidence.